Good morning, everybody. Give a second here. All right. So a little bitty gap down here this morning. Let's check this out. 404, not so bad. So we don't get overreactions to a little negativity. And we have to put it in the context of the big picture. So short-term daily trend is up. Weekly trend is turning neutral by the depth of retracement here. And we've got our halfway mark in the wide range bar, right? Factory work, power bar. Power bar says prices are going to go higher. Prices are correcting. They're correcting in the upper half. That's okay. They gapped down last week. They recovered, positive. First reference point of overhead resistance, prior bar is high. It ain't taking that out at the open. And so is it taking out the low? Nope, it's close. So now here's support, the pivot on the hourly chart. Let's move those cursors around. We see where they are on the hourly chart. It's starting a trading range. It's consolidating the gains of the wide range bar, which created a void below. So now it needs to create support, potentially for it to go higher. All right, black and white, factory work, looking to the left, measuring retracements and basic stuff, right? No VWAPs, fib lines, so on and so forth. So going nowhere here. News, media got a little excited, closing above the 200. It's right at the 200, right? And so kind of neutral here, not much happening other than a little negativity. Now, let's go through the rest. Below, McGraw saying below 4,000, say 38.58, which I was looking for the open there. 39.85. Yeah. So we'll see where that is. Let's look at the futures. That's the reasonable the process that we go through, right? And so we look at premiums on SPX, 0 data expiration. And you look at a number, like what's there now, and say, well, what's reasonable to do on that day? And then from there, you see where that number is on the chart. Is it a reasonable area to be selling that credit spread? So this is the process every day. So S&P's down a little bit, looking at, the 24-hour wide range bar. That was the dip last week. This is today, no big deal. Ideally, this turns green. Even if it comes down here, it turns green by the end of the day. Why do I want it to turn green? Because the trend is up. Power bar. The more it comes down here, right? If it gets down and closes below 4,000, it becomes a problem. Depth of retracement, common sense. Now, there's nothing below here. 4,000's, big whole number there. And so if it gets down there and you see it tested it, it should, right, ideal, theoretically, pivot low, bounce back up again. And if we have that and it turns back up again, well, then tomorrow it's got to go up, right? That's the idea. For 4105. I think that's okay, McGraw. So that's the top of the trading range, and for selling a call spread. So this kind of scenario that we have right now, where you've got the power bar, markets are correcting, they're trying to find their footing, so to speak, or create that support. The first few days after the power bar, right, that starts corrections like this, really, it could have gone up Friday, but it didn't. An iron condor does make sense if there's enough premium and it's far enough away, which is the whole essence behind any credit spread, is how far away can you get? What's the time to expiration? How far away is it? So could it get to 4105 today? Well, we know anything's possible, but it's down here, it's correcting, and it's creating all this resistance, which, looking at the intraday charts is right up here. And is it a no-brainer? I would say no, but is it likely to get through that? I doubt it. And so, with any credit spread scenario, my point of view is, hey, if it's going down, look where it won't go to and sell below that. So selling up here as it's going down, does it make sense? Yeah, as long as it keeps going down, because it's not that far away here. If it was to reverse right back up from here, you'd be like, okay, you've got these lines of defense, but that's pretty darn close. What's the likelihood of it flipping all the way back up there this morning? Well, you would think less so. You've got a line of defense here. So sometimes they're crystal clear as to the probabilities, and sometimes like this, where it's, kind of in the middle of no man's land, it's a little bit more difficult to determine, but what's reasonable? And 4105 is reasonable, and below 4,000 is reasonable. And we're right in the middle of the range. All right. So kind of a little negative but neutral opening here this morning. Something I want to take a look at that kind of, we always got to look at both sides, because all of that looks bullish. This looks bullish, like it's going to go up, the Dow. And so, I look at a chart like this, right? And it's a weekly chart. And I say, okay, greater than 100% retracement suggests a slowing in momentum. Doesn't mean collapse. It did have a pretty long run. That candle is a slowing in momentum candle. It's a small candle body, right? We call it a bottoming tail bar, but it's a bottoming tail bar, after a run up like that. And the distance that it traveled tells us about slowing in momentum. So while I've got this pattern basically on so many different charts of this continuation pattern, and I see these weekly charts, well, this one's already reached its destination, suggesting to me this ain't going very far. You got a mixed picture, where this historically could be, the next week could be a down week and more of a correction type of scenario. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out because, this led the way up and it's not in alignment. And when, we go and look at laggards, which is what I think makes sense now, is to focus more on the laggards that need to play catch up. And so you got the Qs here. Where are they? Not a big deal with the gap down, 50% of the bar. It didn't get through this pivot yet, but as this consolidates, the big opportunity is in the laggards that could, like in this case, move up to the 200-day or this pivot. Right? And the Dow might just chop around and not do much of anything. Well, that's my thinking here, and to focus on what hasn't moved versus what's already had big moves and not likely to move. Now, we just don't want, the Dow to fall apart, because that's going to be a negative. And you want to keep an eye on financials, kind of XLF, somewhat of a similar scenario. So you don't want to see that. You don't really want to see these things that have run up closing under Wednesday's low. Right? They're power bars. Power bars aren't supposed to fall apart. All right. So futures down a bit, no big deal. All right. Consolidating, not a big deal yet. It already dipped down and should move up. Will weakness in the Dow restrict the upward momentum in the NASDAQ? Well, that's the big question, Thane. And so theoretically, to some degree, it would, but depends on how much weakness. If the weakness is mild, where it's just underperforming versus collapsing, no, it shouldn't. So look, once this, here's the whole idea, no matter what we're looking at, is this is a bottoming pattern, right? Wide bar, right? Wide bar. correction. How long will the correction last? Well, we really don't know, right? This, if it would have dipped down sooner, probably would have been able to rally higher. So could this last a week correcting? Of course it could. Could it dip down today, reverse back up again, and that be it, and off to the races? Sure. Our market internals are neutral. Right? Surprisingly, sentiment hasn't moved up. And so we've got a mixed picture. Whereas there are other times, like last year, all these markets were moving in unison, and now they're not. We've got a different market environment. And okay. So our job is to assess what's going on. And while we're doing that, as we look at the equity markets, we've been talking about interest rates and the dollar forever. And this is part of the big picture that can play havoc in the bullish scenario. So interest rates, they came down here, right? They're holding for the moment. Now, if they continue to move down toward this 3.3 level where this support is, well, that's going to be a positive for equities. So you want to keep an eye on this. If it starts moving up, it's going to be a short-term negative. But right now, it's trending down. And the dollar, that's on the 200-day, and it's on this major support. So this morning, it's really not doing anything. So you want to keep an eye on that. Maybe it can dip down a little bit more. So if it continues to be weak and comes down to the next level of support, so we look at this as a kind of a wider level. We've got a pivot low here. And we've got these pivot lows there. So if the dollar will keep moving down and the 10-year will keep moving down, well, then the underperformers, Qs, will move up. Technology, right, moves up. Maybe SMH, which has been showing a little relative strength lately, that begins to move up. So the intermarket analysis is a big factor here, since there are these deviations between markets. Our internals tell us that there's gas in the tank, right? And the way to say, because sentiment hasn't reached an extreme. Relative strength and weakness, this could bring up the rear. And so there's a lot of things to look at, not a lot, but a few things to look at that you need to be aware of to determine, hey, is anything of significance happening here right now with this gap down? I would say no. Now, what would ignite this market one way or the other? What has been pushing it around? The dollar and interest rates. So that's what we need to keep an eye on. And so, Dow correcting a little bit, not a big deal so far yet. Same story there, with that slowing momentum bar. So the daily charts in last week's price action gives us a bias and a belief that prices are going to go higher. And so we look for other pieces of information that support that bias. And it's our job to look at other pieces of information to say, hey, maybe it's not such a no-brainer. And that's what we're doing here. Transports, neutral, not such a big deal going on there, but so far things still look good. This has room to go up to the pivot. So if transports are moving up, Dow underperforms, a little, that's still all good. And, I think the biggest thing that we have as a concern, which is the unknown, is news. This market turns on a dime. So, it is what it is. Bitcoin has that bottoming tail bar. Looks like it can go up here. Still bearish on the weekly time frame. So silver and gold correcting a bit, not a big deal. They still look like they're going to go higher. And, stalling here, that's at its destination. But how could that get through that? The dollar keeps falling. The dollar turns up, this is going to weaken. So the intermarket part of our analysis is really key here to keeping us on the right side of things. And there'll be times in the future where, there'll be something else to pay attention to, which there always is. Crude oil flipping back up there, sell setup, but it's not rolling over here today. So here's our marching orders for today as to what to keep an eye on so far, starting off a bit on a neutral side. Right. I was in agreement, Rob, with what McGraw said. You want to be, I can go back to it, SPX. You be below 4,000 and 4105, which isn't all that far away, but should be okay today. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. I'm actually happy that we're gapping down here because then the market has to prove itself again if it's going to continue the strength. So, I've been talking about ever since this nasty gap down, there's been multiple, and I remember this day right here, I said, get bullish. This was a Friday and it was extended intraday, but that was a no-brainer entry for this beautiful bottoming pattern. This gap up on economic CPI numbers, and then gap negated again on payroll data. So the bulls are in control. And then, I won't repeat everything Greg just did, but yeah, we're in alignment. Over Friday's high, we're bullish. Under Friday's low, danger. This could be the high of the bear market rally. Who the heck knows? But I have a ton more bullish setups. So with the market gap down, they shouldn't trigger unless they're strong. So that's a positive. Chug, well, the weekly is extended, Fernando, but that's another bottoming pattern. We got to do another MT live here soon on bottoming patterns, because when you get the right one, they are just so beautiful. But I like it as a swing trade based on the daily charts. Look at this charter. This was a beautiful bottoming pattern that I was watching this thing for 3 friggin' weeks before we got on board, because I was confident that it was going to turn eventually. And now it's another breakout. The Scott Miracle-Gro also, I was watching this thing for 3 weeks. Look at this bottoming pattern. Look, got a little buy set up here. You got a wide range closing breakout with a price void. You just gotta, this is where seasoning comes in. And I've seen this movie 100 times. And so I have extreme high level of confidence that this is going to go higher. And we traded it. We bought the stock and shorted puts also. Raul asking about KMX long. But there's a lot of patterns like this that the retracements, and do you want to trade it over Friday's high or Thursday's high? And it's a judgment call on the overall pattern. But with the market gap down, if it takes out Friday's high, I think you can do a half lot. And let's see what it does here with the market gap down. MSauce, we shorted puts on this marijuana thing. We did one that expired full profit last week, and we put on another one for next week. And this is relative strength. This looks good. We're already in it. ACB is a little marijuana stock. That's good to go. Friday's high. Even, Tilray Dog even went, MJ went. So we can scan the whole sector. I'm just resetting my alarm because it went off. Here's another bottoming pattern. Look at this GCT. And there's our wide range breakout, small little buy setup, or even kind of cup and handle thing. So we bought this on the afternoon breakout. I actually sold some pre-market here. I had a nice out. I moved stop break even. Let's see what else I have over here. If you have any questions on opens, just ask. We got a bunch of them. RCM alarm is going off right now. Another bottoming. This was the one Alex mentioned when we were talking about bottoming patterns. RCM versus CCMP. Even though they're different sectors. We had a discussion Friday about what's this C stock? CMPS. And I just said that I like this one better because it's more mature bottoming pattern. But this looks fantastic, and it looks like it's gapping up a little bit, so that's good to go. 5-minute high. PayPal was weak. I like this short. Look at all these 3 moving averages. Look at that. If I just saw these moving averages, and we obviously have done a great MT live on how to use moving averages, but you can tell here the long term's down, and you had a bounce here. The 50 was up and rolled over, and now they're all 3 parallel and declining. On Thursday we had a topping tail. Friday closing breakdown. That looks great as a short. HCMP. This was a buyout rumor, and then I saw in the paper today J&J came out and said, I'm not interested in buying them. And so I'm just assuming that's the cause of the gap down. I don't know what made me look at this morning. I just saw it going by the ticker. And this is a fantastic example of a sideways trend. This is a beautiful sideways trend where you can play support and resistance on the turns. And on Friday, it had a wide range closing breakout. And we don't buy breakouts from the bottom of the range to the top. We want to buy pullbacks and reversals on minor support. But I did look at the premiums because this would be a fantastic put selling candidate. And if the option sellers want to, research this later for us all, it had 99% certainty there has to be a pending FDA decision. It's a biotech. The 11 day to expiration furthest out of the money put is $35 strike, $5.40 by $7. So let's just say you can get $6 for it. Are you kidding me? The 35 is $45 away, and you can get $6. That would give you a cost basis of $29. Now, if I like working in a hedge fund that was following this stock, I would be pounding on these puts because your cost basis is just astronomical. Like the $60 puts are $16. I mean, this is I don't think I've ever seen puts this high, except for the 2008 financial crash when Lehman and some of those banks had crazy juice like this. All right, enough of that. Wolf. IR pre-market data. Okay. All right, so LI and XPEV, I noticed we've been playing some of these Chinese EV stocks the last couple of days. XPEV had a beautiful gap breakout, another bottoming pattern. Beautiful gap breakout on earnings. I'm writing this down because these are great examples for bottoming patterns. I'll put in MT Live. Roblox, this one's not a great bottoming pattern, but it's a tradable bounce pattern. See, when we want more secure long-term bottoms, we want the 20 and 58 of MA to flatten out. Notice how these are all three in downtrends, but this is a potent turn with a price void, so it's still a good trade, but it's not the CMPS. All right, I got a couple of alarms going off here. Echo. So this is the one, Greg, you mentioned. Echo on Friday. I have Lima Whiskey going off. Why is Lima Whiskey going off? Oh, I think it had one. Yeah, it had one print there pre-market. Blink up alarm. We're already in it. So I just got to reset. Lima Whiskey is all because it's still a go over Friday's high. All right, Blink alarm. That's another. It's another bottoming pattern, but it doesn't have the same void. But we're short puts on this. So let me just reset my up alarm. Dunking up alarm. Dunking. So here's Raul. Here's another example where I said it's a judgment call if you do Friday's high or Thursday's high. But look, this is a bull rectangle. Here's my flag pole, and just draw a box around this consolidation. I love the three tightening moving averages. So that's good to go. All right, the CMPS triggered. All right, what else triggered? CMPS. All right, so yeah, this is beautiful bottoming pattern. Wow, I'm having a lot of bullish alarms going off, even with the market gap down. So we have put spreads on Roku. That's acting well. I'm just going to reset the alarm. Our MSOS, marijuana, ACB over the high is good to go.